In many communities, especially among farmers and low-income families, earning fair living has never been easy. Prices are often controlled by powerful traders. Profits are unevenly shared, and decisions that affect people's lives are usually made by only few. Because of this, many ordinary people remain dependent, unheard, and excluded from real participation in economic and social life. Yet, there is a system where people choose to work together, share responsibility, and make decisions as a group, and where resources are pooled. Power is shared, and progress is built through collective effort rather than individual control. This system, known as the cooperative, becomes a vehicle for empowerment, development, and democratization. And in this report, we will examine what its meaning, historical development in our country, which is the Philippines, and how its guiding principles and strategies allow to transfer marginalized communities into active participants in economic and political life. Good day, everyone. I am Umar Aljayed Emiro, Bachelor of Arts in Political Science student from Section DD3. And my topic is all about the cooperative as a vehicle for empowerment, development, and democratization by Teresa Espada. In the post-martial law period, witnessed the rebirth of the cooperative movement. This is not attributed to the government, but it is through the people's initiative, especially the non-government organizations or NGOs and the people's organizations or POs, that they are searching for a viable livelihoods. Despite a history of failures, cooperative remain among the more attractive solution or option in providing the marginalized sectors of our society a means of livelihood. To begin with, the post-martial law period, dito nagsimula or it marked the revival or the comeback of the cooperative movement in our country, which is here in the Philippines. So, ang pagbabalik dito or ang pag-revive ng cooperative movement is not attributed to our government, but it is through the initiative or initiation of the NGOs o yung mga tinatawag nating non-government organizations at yung mga people's organizations, also known as POs, kung saan they are finding ways in order to find alleviation in order to help organize farmers into a cooperatives. So for example, yung mga NGO, they help organizing small farmers into cooperatives kung saan they could save, access credit, and engage in collective livelihood projects. So sa kabila ng mga pagsubok or the failures ng unang panahon, the cooperatives remain one of the vital or the most attractive options for the farmers for them to be their source of income, to alleviate the poverty or help those farmers coming from marginalized sectors to be empowered. So the Cooperative Development Agency or CDA statistics show that there were 57,470 registered cooperatives with a membership of at least 5 million individuals as compared to 1990 when there were only 212 cooperatives. In 2005, the number of cooperatives increased to 69,492. So the most popular among these cooperatives are the multi-purpose agricultural cooperatives like the agricultural more multi-purpose cooperatives or EMCs, which increased from 134 in 1990 to 32,574 in 2000 na AMC cooperatives. So in 2005, comprised 52% of total number of cooperatives, while amounting to only 32% of the total numbers are the non-agricultural cooperatives. So, according to the data or according to the survey of the Cooperative Development Agency, it shows the rapid growth o grabing paglawak na o pagdami ng bilang ng mga cooperatives sa ating country. So, yung agricultural multipurpose cooperatives or mga agricultural na cooperatives is sila yung isa sa mga madadaming cooperatives or bilang ng mga cooperatives sa ating country, kung saan malaki yung pagtaas din nila from 134 noong 1990 to 32,574 na cooperative or registered cooperative organization noong 2000. So, for instance, yung mga AMCs provided a full combination of credit services, farm inputs, and marketing assistance to their members. That is why makikita natin talaga na napakadami ng mga agricultural cooperatives ang nasa ating bansa. And by 2005, agricultural multi-purpose cooperative comprised 52% of the total cooperatives. So yun na nga, makikita natin na mas madami nga yung bilang o yung porsyento ng mga agricultural or agricultural related cooperatives kumpara sa mga non-agricultural cooperatives na kung saan may only 32% lamang na dami nila, na makikita natin kung gaano kalaki yung agwat ng dalawang klase ng cooperative. So, ang tanong is, bakit nga ba magkaiba or bakit ba malaki yung pagkakaiba ng porsyento or bilang ng mga non-agricultural cooperatives at agricultural cooperatives? Underdevelopment has always been blamed for hindering the democratization process in the country, because poverty subjects the impoverished sectors of our society. Example, the farmers, to an essence standard of living that hinders them from addressing factors which exploits them, such as landlords, metal traders, and usurers. The only way to address this is to pave the way for development in the rural areas and to empower the farmers. Only when there is empowerment and development, democracy can be attained. Yung underdevelopment has long been viewed as a major obstacle to the democratization process in our country. Take note of this. Yung pagkakaroon natin or hindi pagkakadevelop ng ating country ang siyang nagiging rason kung bakit madami yung hinakaharap na problema or why there are major obstacles to the democratization process, or bakit madami yung mga obstacles na nakaharang sa pagkakaroon natin ng tunay na demokrasya sa ating bansa. Dahil nga underdeveloped. Poverty forces farmers and other poor sectors to live under indecent conditions, preventing them from confronting exploitative forces such as landlords, middle traders, and usurers. So, bakit ba yung kahirapan forces farmers to prevent, or bakit hindi nila iniisip na or naiisip yung kanilang mga karapatan is na-exploit na ng mga middle traders, landlords, or mga usurers. So, ganito kasi yan. Halimbawa, yung mga farmers is, sobrang naghihirap na sila. So, they are burdened by a debt. So, they often prioritize their daily survival over participation in political and decision-making process. Or mas inuuna nila yung ano ba yung kakainin nila, paano ba sila makakasurvive sa pang-araw-araw nila, bago nila isipin na magpartisipasyon pa sa political, or isipin pa na ang kanilang makarapatan ay na-exploit na ito ng mga elitista or yung mga tinatawag natin kanina mga middle traders. So, in this context, makikita natin na ang democracy is ma-achieve lang or can be strengthened or only attained through the development and empowerment of farmers. Only when people are economically secure can meaningful democratic participation take place. So, finally, cooperatives has been noted as one of the voluntary sectors that contribute to the governance process. This is because cooperatives have complemented or even taken over state responsibilities, particularly in the areas where farmers are organized into an economic activity. So makikita natin that the cooperatives are recognized as a voluntary sectors na kung saan they are giving or actively contributing to the governance process. Bakit nga ba? In many cases, cooperatives rather complement or help or take over the certain state responsibilities like ngayong mga nag-organize sila ng mga economic activities. Halimbawa, some cooperatives provide credit. So nagpapautang yung mga cooperatives, production assistance, sila yung nagbibigay ng pondo sa mga nagamit nila doon sa kanilang pagsasaka or capital sa madaling salita. And marketing services, yung pagpapalawak sa kanila or paano nila mabenta ng malaki yung marireceive nilang payment sa kanilang mga produkto or magkakaroon sila ng payback sa kanilang mga binibenta in up fairer price. And it wouldn't be expected from the government agencies or hindi ito na ibibigay ng ating gobyerno. So, in this way, cooperatives function not only as economic institution but also as a mechanism for governance participation and democratic action. So within this report, we will all be tackling about what are those histories. How does cooperatives started? Paano nga ba nabuo yung cooperatives? What are those challenges that cooperatives have faced? And what are those criticism that cooperatives has or had received rather? And what are those outcomes that cooperatives has given to many individuals, specifically to the farmers or to the poor sectors? Moreover, before we dive in to the topic or to the further discussion about the cooperative, let us first give the learning objectives o yung mga maaaring or at the end of this lesson na malalearn ng mga manunood dito or magkikinig dito sa discussion na to. So number 1, the student should able to discuss the emergence of the cooperative movement in the Philippines. Number 2, the student should be able to define the role played by the cooperative movement in addressing issues of democracy and development in the Philippine society. And the last, or number 3, the student should be able to identify the strategies employed by the cooperatives in addressing the issues of democracy and the development, and also the factors which facilitated or hindered their effectiveness. So now, let us discuss the pre-martial law cooperative agenda. So in 1950s, the Philippine government realized that the one way to deal the poverty problem and consequently kill the peasant rebellions was to introduce laws to establish a formidable cooperative movement in the country. That is the Republic Act 821 in 1952, known as the Agricultural Credit and Cooperative Financing Administration or ACCFA. It was established to organize the farmers into Farmers Cooperative Marketing Association, known as FACOMAS, which aims to lend farmer members a credit through such associations. Noong pre-martial law, na itatag o dito nagsimula yung pagkakatatag or pagsisimula ng cooperative movement. So, how does it started? So, the government realized that the only way for them to deal the poverty is to introduce a laws that establish a formidable cooperative movement in the country. So naisipan ng ating gobyerno na ito yung maaari nilang gawin upang maaaring magbigay ng solusyon sa kinakaharap na problema ng ating bansa, which is yung kahirapan nga. So dahil dyan, na-introduce or ginawan nila ng batas ito, at ito yung Republic Act 821, also known as the Agricultural Credit and Cooperative Financing Administration or ACCFA, kung saan itong RA na ito ay naglalayong iorganisa ang mga farmers sa tinatawag na Farmers Cooperative Marketing Associations or FACOMAS, which aimed to lend farmer members a credit through such association. So, ini-aim ng programang ito o ng RA na ito is to give farmers an access to credit and financial assistance, kung saan maaaring hindi na nila paproblemahin pa kung saan sila kukuha ng kanilang gagastusin sa kanilang pagsisimula ng pagsasaka. So what are the objectives behind this RA or this Section 11 of RA 821? So number 1, stimulating the development and operations of farmers' cooperatives. So, sa madaling salita, dito sa RA na ito, ang batas na ito is nagtatag sila ng isang association kung saan mga farmer lamang ang mga miyembro nito. So, paano nga ba ito mag-work? So, halimbawa, yung mga farmers na nagtatrabaho or nagsasaka na is ini-encourage sila or hinihikayat silang mag-join dito para ma-market nila or mabenta nila yung mga produktong kanilang itinatanim at para rin mabayaran sila ng sapat or in a fair price. So number 2 is minimize the lack of credit as a limiting factor in the expansion of Philippine agriculture. So ito rin is naghahangad na mabawasan or to reduce the lack of credit that limited agricultural expansion. So instead na yung mga farmers o yung mga magsasaka ay mangutang or mag-borrow sa mga private money lenders kung saan, yun na nga yung sinabi natin kanina na kumukuha or kumukupit ng napakalaking interest, dito na nila ibebenta yung mga produktong kanilang ibebenta sa ginawang inisyatiba na ito or kooperatiba na ito kung saan babayaran sila sa tama o akmang presyo ng kanilang mga produkto. And also, they can obtain loans through these cooperatives. Maaari silang manghiram ng loans or mag-loan sa cooperative na ito para gamitin nila iba't ibang gagastusin para sila ay magtanim. So, the last one is to freeing farmers from the economic and social domination caused by money lenders. So, ang batas na rin ito or ang RA na ito ay naglalayong mapawala or ma-free yung mga farmers from economic and social domination by money lenders who often trap the farmers in cycles of debt and dependency. So, aim din nito is para hindi na nga, like sinabi ko kanina, kung dati is nangungutang sila sa mga private money lenders o yung mga nagpapautang kung saan sila ay kumukuha ng malaking interest, ito yung isa sa layunin din ng organisasyon o association na ito or yung FACOMAS kung saan if-free or paiiwasin or tatanggalin or hindi na papauutangin or hindi na kailangang mangutang ng mga farmers na ito sa mga private na money lenders na ito kung saan malaki yung kinukuha sa kanila. And by that, by shifting from borrowing money from this private money lenders sa association na ito or sa cooperative na ito na sila maaaring mag-borrow o mag-loan. Ngunit, the success of FACOMAS and ECCFA were hindered by some obstacles. So, una rito is yung economic problems. So, bakit nga ba nagkaroon ng economic problems? So, ito yung reason. Cooperatives developed slowly because members had difficulty building capital through savings as farmers earn enough for daily survival. So, malaki yung problema nito sa economic kasi nga, yung mga farmers is hindi sila makasave kasi normal lang yung kinikita nila sa pang-araw-araw na kanilang pagsasaka. Nakikita lang, yung mga kinikita lang nila ay enough lang talaga sa mga pang-araw-araw nilang gastusin. So, dahil dyan, hindi lumaki yung mga pera na kanilang naipon kasi nga, maliit yung kinikita nila. Pangalawa is yung political problems. So, bakit nga ba nagkaroon ng political problems? Dito naman pumasok yung pagkakaroon ng political na problema kung saan ginamit na naman ang kooperatiba para sa pamumulitika, or it was used as a stepping stones to gain political support or to secure a local office. So, paano nga ba ito nangyari? So, halimbawa, leadership positions in cooperatives were sometimes influenced by political loyalty rather than competence, weakening their effectiveness and credibility among farmers. So, yung mga naitalaga rito o yung mga naging namumuno rito sa organization na ito ay bunga nga ng politicization. Why is it so? So, yung mga nasa position na cooperative na ito, yung association na ito, ay karamihan sa kanila nga ay mga naging ginamit lamang nila ang kanilang kapangyarihan or ang kanilang influence para lamang malagay sa posisyon na ito. Ngunit, ang problema rito or bakit ito nag-cause ng problem is that yung karamihan sa mga nalagay o mga nasa posisyon na iyon ay hindi sila competent or wala nga silang kaalaman doon, which weakens the effectiveness or the credibility among the farmers. So, yan yung mga rason bakit itong agenda na ito noong pre-martial law ay hindi nag-succeed. Although maganda talaga yung hangarin nito, ay malaki rin yung mga problemang kinaharap nito, which caused this cooperative to get flopped or hindi siya nag-succeed. Despite these early efforts to use cooperative as a tool for rural development, their limitation became more evident over time. These challenges set the stage for a new approach for a cooperative organization under a different political environment, which would later emerge during the period of martial law and the establishment of what we called Samahang Nayon. So what is Samahang Nayon during the martial law? So the government's policy was subsumed within the administration's land reform policy by Presidential Decree Number 2 issued on September 26, 1972, declaring the entire country as a land reform area. So in this decree, it required all agrarian reform beneficiaries become a member or a members of farmers cooperative known as the Samahang Nayon or SN for short. So the SN was mandated by the Code of Agrarian Reform or RA 6389, which was passed in 1971 to establish cooperative cultivatorship among those who live and work on the land as tillers, and also to create a truly viable social and economic structure conducive to greater productivity and higher farm incomes through a cooperative system, productions, processing, marketing, distribution, credit, and services. So, during the martial law period, yung government integrated cooperative development into its reform policy known as the Presidential Decree Number 2 issued on September 26, 1972, kung saan diniklara nito na ang buong bansa natin or ang buong Philippines that time is a land reform area. So, ang government nga during the martial law period is inintegrate nila yung cooperative development doon nga sa nasabing presidential decree. So, under dito sa policy na ito, lahat ng mga agrarian reform beneficiaries, mga beneficiaryo ng agrarian reform ay not just encouraged but required to become a members of a farmers cooperative known as Samahang Nayon. Yung legal basis dito or yung naging rason dito is yung Code of Agrarian Reform Republic Act number 6389. This act or this code is aimed to establish a cultivatorship among those who lived and worked on land. To be specific or sa madaling salita, yung mga magsasaka yung pinaka-hikayat dito. So, the goal of this was to create a viable social and economic structure that would increase productivity and raise farm incomes through cooperative system in terms of production, processing, marketing, distribution, credit, and services. So, ang pinakahangad lamang nito ay mapalago nga yung ating ekonomiya kung saan magpapalawak or magpapalaki or magpapa-increase sa productivity ng ating pagsasaka or sa ating land reform areas tulad sa mga production, processing, marketing, distribution, and credit and services. Thus, the Samahang Nayon was basically a corporate body composed of primarily small farmers residing or farming within the geographical limits of barrio or villages for the purpose of improving the quality of life of the people. A Bureau of Cooperative Development or BCOD was created to oversee the success of the SN or Samahang Nayon. So basically, yung Samahan sa Nayon is ginawa talaga or didisenyo talaga as a corporate body or siyang mangangasiwa or titingin sa mga magsasaka na naninirahan or nagsasaka sa mga lupa kung saan specifically sa mga barrio or villages kasi nga igaguide sila or titingnan nga kung ano yung kanilang mga ginagawa or paano ba ma-integrate na lumawak pa yung pagsasaka sa ating bansa. And with the purpose also of improving the quality life. So, ang purpose din nito is mapalawak nga yung kanilang pamumuhay, mapalaki yung kanilang kita, ma-oversee kung hindi ba magsasucess yung kanilang ginagawa. So, dahil dito, this code was integrated to oversee the farmers and of course to ensure that the implementation is performed well. Definitely to improve the quality of life of the farmers. And that is why the Bureau of Cooperative Development or BCOD was created or established to supervise. So yun na nga, yung BCOD ay ginawa or itinalaga upang mga siwa or tingnan or i-guide or mag-supervise sa mga magsasaka. So definitely, BCOD or Bureau of Cooperative Development or BCOD was created to oversee SN members. So, the question is, ano nga ba yung mga objective or ano nga ba yung mga layunin nila? Bakit sila na itatag or bakit publish itong BCOD or itong Samahan sa Nayon? So, number one is SN members had to undergo training on courses which include the history and principles of cooperatives. So, basically, the members are required to undergo a training about the history, yung mga principles ng cooperatives, na kung saan tatalakay nila how to discipline themselves, the cooperation, and the collective responsibility of each members. So halimbawa, farmer members attend seminars on cooperatives and of course about the seminar values and the basic management to prepare them to collective economic activities. Or nagle-lecture itong BCOD about the integrating about the history and about what are the necessities or the things that should be done or what should be doing by the farmers in order for them to make their farming more efficient and effective. So yun na nga, ang ini-aim ng seminar na ito or mga lectures na ito is ituruan nga yung mga tao or yung mga farmer ano nga ba yung cooperative na ito o ano nga ba yung pinasok nila, and at the same time ano yung tamang pag-manage or tamang pangangasiwa sa kanilang mga itinatanim. And the number two is the capital build-up was addressed. So capital build-up will also address And it is also the key objective to support cooperative operation. So, tinatalakay din dito or yung ini-aim din ng BCOD na ito is paano mapalawak yung kapital ng mga farmers. Kasi ito rin yung isa sa reason bakit nagsastrive or bakit pina-join or bakit in-encourage yung mga farmers na maging bahagi or maging parte ng kooperatibang ito dahil nga para mapalawak or mapalaki yung capital or yung kanilang mga ma-income dito. So in relation to this, 2 compulsory saving programs were introduced. What are those? Number 1, Barrio Savings Fund or BSF. Then number 2, Barrio Guaranteed Fund or BGF. So what is Barrio Savings Fund all about or what is BSF all about? So, ang mga SN members or Samahang Nayon members are required to contribute a membership fee which is 10 pesos and annual dues of 5 pesos. So, yung mga binabayad na ito ay contribution ito na kung saan mailalagay ito or mapupunta ito sa general fund ng nasabing organization or association. So, yung BSF fund is gagamitin ito into the SN as their general fund. And for example, these funds were meant to support daily operation and small-scale cooperative projects. So, yun na nga, itong fund na ito is itong binayad nga nila ito ay mapupunta sa fund para isupport sa mga daily operation expenses or mga expenses and small-scale cooperative projects. Kung mayroon man silang itatatag na mga initiatives, is dito manggagaling budget na kanilang gagamitin sa mga registration na ito ng mga members. And number 2 is yung Barrio Guaranteed Fund. So ano nga ba yung BGF? So it was aimed or it was provide the initial capital to organize an area marketing cooperative or EMC. So it was partly intended to guarantee land amortization of members who were land reform beneficiaries as well as partly for insurance premiums. So yung BGF it was designed to provide initial capital para sa organizing area marketing cooperatives or yung tinatawag natin EMCs para ma-help sila to guarantee land amortization payments of agrarian reform beneficiaries as well as to their partially over insurance premiums. So as we can see nga, di ba ang ganda ng initiative or ang ganda nga ng ini-aim ng Samahang Nayon. Ang ganda nga ng mga initiative nila about how cooperatives serve as a weapon to uplift the lives of those impoverished sectors, especially the farmers. However, the SN or Samahang Nayon did not perform up too far. So according to the study of the University of the Philippines, Los Baños or UPLB, it was revealed that the only 40% of the SN members consider the programs as a success, while 11% said it was a failure, making it viewed by others as having no big difference. So, in simple term or in a single word or simple words, the Samahang Nayon failed to meet expectations. So, yung mga sinabi nga natin kanina na mga in-expect nila, yung mga in-aim nila is such an expectation and it was failed. Due to this, several criticism or problems were identified. So dahil nga dito, madaming mga problema yung mga nagsilabasan or madami silang na-receive na criticism or madaming na-receive na criticism yung SN dahil nga doon sa result na iyon dahil nga nag-failed. So what are those? So number 1, inability of the BSF to pay for the liabilities of defaulting members. So the inability of the Barrio Saving Funds or BSF to pay for the liabilities of defaulting members weakened the trust in system. So basically, the BSF was designed to serve as a collective safety net. But when the members failed to repay their obligations, the fund was insufficient to cover these liabilities. The financial weakness placed additional burdens on complaint members and discourage collective responsibility. So for us to grasp it or to fully understand it, the main reason for that is yun na nga. For example, 10 members ang kasali sa organization na ito. So yung 9 na doon, yung 9 doon is nagbayad. While yung isa doon is hindi. So it caused a massive effect or nag-create siya ng problem kasi nga nangutang yung isa doon ngunit hindi na binayaran. So the result is yung mga binabayad kung saan nabawasan yung mga 10 mababayad. So, yung ibabayad sana ng isa doon is nagdagdag sa siyam na yon, which lost their trust to the said organization kasi nga nagkaroon ng hindi nga na-achieve yung fairness kasi nga nagko-question sila na bakit ganito, bakit ganyan. So, yun yung reason bakit the inability of the BSF to pay for the liabilities of defaulting members. So, the number 2 is the Samahang Nayon members were not interested in the BSF and BGF. So, basically, karamihan nga sa mga members noon is maliit lang yung nagpakita na sila ay interesado dito sa tinatawag na BGF na ito. Kasi nga, the participation in this fund was compulsory rather than voluntary. And of course, the main reason or the big reason why members are not interested or were not interested rather to this is was that they do not fully understand the purpose or the value of the said program or the said fund. Hindi nila alam na ang fund na ito ay hindi ito basta lamang kinukuha yung mga pera ng mga membro nito para lang sa pansarili, kundi mga perang kinukulikta dito is for funding. So as a result, contribution were often viewed as a burden instead of an investment in collective growth and security. So yun na nga, dahil sa walang alam or hindi nila totally alam kung saan ba ginagastos or ano nga ba yung purpose ng binabayad nila, parang iniisip nila na yung pagbabinabayad nila is a burden lamang or parang ba't ba tayo nagbabayad instead na ito pala ay for an investment para mapalawak or mapalaki ito at yun na nga, ma-receive nila this. So why this BGF or BSF did not succeed. So number 3 is the nature of cooperative education and training. So the nature of cooperative education and training, limited member engagement. Bakit nga ba? Bakit nga ba yung mga training or yung mga kinakandak nilang seminar is hindi gaano na-engage yung mga members? So ganito kasi yan, ito yung main reason. Yung mga training na kinandak din ng ASN or Samahang Nayon is sobrang formal. Formal instruction na para bang nagdidiskurso sa eskwelahan na hindi man nila inalam na ang mga dinidiscusan nila or mga tinuturuan nila is mga farmers and most of them are not totally educated. Sorry for saying that they're not totally educated, but it shows na hindi sila totally aware or hindi nila madaling mag-grasp yung mga sinasabi. And imbes na mag-discuss sila or imbes na iparating yung mga message or yung discussion or yung lectures face-to-face or yung tinatawag nating practical day-to-day cooperative operations, ginawa nila tong formal na para bang nasa eskwelahan. So, this made difficult for the members to apply the cooperative principles in real economic activities. Kahit nga, baka hindi nila na-understand or naintindihan yung mga dinidiscuss doon. So, hindi na totally na-adapt or na-implement yung mga na-learn nila doon. And it reduced the sense of ownership and long-term commitment with the said organization. So the number 4 is lack of dedicated leaders. The lack of dedicated leaders or capable leaders further weakened the Samahang Nayon's initiative. Why? Many leaders were either poorly trained or politically motivated, which affected their ability to manage cooperative affairs effectively. So without committed leadership, cooperatives struggled to inspire participation and enforce discipline among members. So in simple words to describe why lack of dedicated leaders affected the performance or weekend the SN is that because yung kawalan ng capable leaders na siyang mamumuno sa SN is naka-apekto talaga siya. In what aspect? So for example, karamihan sa mga leader nito is hindi sila interesado or maaaring yung mga nalagay na namumuno rito ay wala talagang kaalaman sa pagmamanage ng nasabing initiative or nasabing organization. So number 5 is self-interest. So self-interest undermined collective actions within the cooperatives. Some members prioritize personal gain over cooperative goals, especially when loan repayment conflicted with individual needs. This behavior eroded trust and contradicted the cooperative principle of shared responsibility. So here naman is yung self-interest is karamihan or some of the members prioritized personal gain over the purpose or the cooperative goals. So halimbawa, kapag yung mga member is may pera na sila, imbes na magbayad sila nung sa mga sinabing ibabayad, is yung ginagawa kasi mas pinaprioritize nila yung mga kanilang pansariling katakawan o mga pansariling kinakailangan over doon sa responsibilities nila. So maaari namang for yourself, but at the same time, huwag mong kalimutan yung responsibility mo doon sa organization or association nito. That's the reason why this cooperative or why this initiative didn't up to par, or how does this cooperative didn't achieve its truly wants, or ano ba yung mga ini-aim nito, or bakit hindi nila na-achieve yung mga gusto nilang gawin dito sa organization na ito or dito sa initiative na ito dahil nga sa pansariling katakawan or personal gain ng isang tao or mga member dito. So the last one is the failure of the government to implement land reform program. So the failure of the government to fully implement land reform program conflicted to the collapse of confidence in the SN system. So without genuine land redistribution, farmers remain economically insecure and dependent on traditional power structures, and this made them difficult, or it made difficult for the cooperatives to function as an instrument for empowerment, since its members lacked real control over the land they are cultivating. So for us to understand or to grasp it well, so yung pagkakaroon or yung failure or hindi pagkakaroon ng mga sariling lupa, or the failure of the government to provide or to implement a land reform program sa mga magsasaka is nag-cause din ito ng mga problema, or nag-cause din ito ng problem, or naging reason ito bakit hindi na-achieve yung ini-aim ng samahang na yun, or nag-cause ito ng disruption sa mga initiative ng SN. So yung mga member ng cooperative is mahirap sa kanila na yung magawa yung mga sinasabi ng cooperative. The main reason is that they do not own the property they are tataniman, and that's the reason why the cooperative made it difficult for them to function properly, as its member lacked control or real control over the land they cultivated. After the 1986 People Power Revolution, there was still a faction in the Philippines that choose to devote its energies into the development work with the end goal of empowering marginalized sectors in the Philippine society. In rural areas, the cooperatives became a major tool for uplifting poor. So we have this two major proponents, Horacio Boy Morales, a former National Democratic Front head. He focused on improving the cooperative movement by networking at the national level. And the second proponent is Bernabe Comandante Boscaino, a former New People's Army commander. So, Commander Dante devoted his efforts in Tarlac and expanded it to its nearby provinces like Nueva Ecija and Pampanga with the help of the Aquino support. There were two major laws were passed on March 10, 1990. So what are those? So number one, RA 6938, known as the Cooperative Code of the Philippines. The number two, the RA 6939, the creation of the Cooperative Development Authority or CDA. So ano nga ba yung RA 6938 or the Cooperative Code of the Philippines? So ang code na ito is to provide organic law for cooperatives. So basically this RA or the Cooperative Code of the Philippines provided an organic legal framework for the cooperatives, while the RA 6939 or the creation of the Cooperative Development Authority or CDA, it made the CDA as a main government agency implementing the Cooperative Code. So, despite the implementation of this new code, the cooperative movement continued to lobby for more government support in cooperative developments. So, hindi pa rin tumigil yung cooperative movement nila na mag-sought ng help sa government. So, number one is financial and capital access. So, financial capital access remained a major concern as many cooperatives lacked sufficient funds to support production, credit services, and expansion. So, dito nga is nag-seek or nag-sought pa rin sila ng help sa financial or yung sa pera nga and capital access, kung saan it became or it remained as a major concern for them, for many cooperatives, to support or to fund production, credit services, and its expansion. So, without affordable and timely financing, cooperatives struggled to compete with private traders and loan sharks. So, yun na nga, malaki pa rin yung kinakailangan nilang pondo para maibigay yung mga serbisyong hinahangad ng cooperative na ito. So, number two is infrastructure and marketing opportunities. So, infrastructure and marketing opportunities were necessary to improve cooperatives' market competitiveness. The absence of a farm-to-market roads, storage facilities, and efficient marketing systems limited cooperatives' ability to sell its product at a fair price and reduced their bargaining power against middle traders. So the number T is strong institutionalization of cooperatives. So the strong institutionalization cooperatives talks about that the cooperatives was needed to ensure stability and long-term viability. So it involved the strengthening cooperative governance, management systems, and regulatory support so that the cooperatives could operate efficiently and independently. And the number four is the filling in gaps left by agencies such as the CDA, Department of Agriculture, and Land Bank. So cooperatives also sought to fill that gaps left by the government agencies such as the CDA or Cooperative Development Authority, the Department of Agriculture, and the Land Bank of the Philippines. Dailies, limited reach, and bureaucratic inefficiencies in these agencies forced cooperatives to take on rules that were supposed to be provided by the state, reinforcing the need for a more responsive and supporting government framework. Upon the institutionalization of the party-list system, the cooperative organizations such as the National Confederation of Cooperatives or NATCO and the Association of the Philippine Electric Cooperatives or APEC also took it upon themselves to organize their own political parties to run for elections. So basically, as the cooperatives became more organized and politically aware, they also began to engage directly in the formal political system. With the institutionalization of the party list system, yung pagkakatatag nga ng mga party list system, they began also to join in the political system, like the cooperative organizations such as the National Confederation of Cooperatives, known as the NATCO, and the APEC, or Association of Philippine Electric Cooperatives. They form, or they organize their own political parties so that they can participate in the election. So what are the aim for this? So this development reflect a growing recognition that the cooperative empowerment required not only economic initiatives but also political strategies, leading them directly to the discussion of the political and economic strategies for cooperative empowerment. So dahil nga sa pagkakaroon or institutionalization of the party list system, the cooperative organization initiated or create their own political system so that they can run to the election. They could use it as a mean to represent the problems that are faced by the cooperatives. So in that way, they could discuss to the national level, to the government, what are those things that the government should help, or what are those things that the government should provide in order for the cooperatives also to function or to give its services to the people in terms of empowering the marginalized sectors. The political vision for an alternative cooperative movement laid the foundation for empowering cooperatives. However, vision alone was not enough. To confront exploitation by traders, cartels, and usurers, cooperatives had to adopt a specific political and economic strategies. So that is why in this topic we will also learn what are the new political and economic strategies that the cooperative has used for empowering the marginalized sectors. So what are those political and economic strategies for cooperative empowerment? So basically creating a political strategies or political environment favorable to cooperative organizing is only half a battle. Yes, and the other half is to pursue economic strategies to render the cooperative feasible as well as sustainable. So, creating a supportive political environment is not enough to strengthen cooperatives. So, kailangan din natin ng solid economic strategies para maging feasible at sustainable ang cooperatives. So, in reality, ang mga magsasaka ay nahaharap sa middle traders, yung mga rice cartels or holders, kung saan sila yung kumukontrol sa presyo ng mga bigas o mga pananim. For example, yung bigas. Then, binibili nila ito or binibili nila yung mga inaani ng mga magsasaka sa mababang presyo. And pagkatapos nila itong mabili sa mga magsasaka, ay ibinebenta naman nila ito sa mataas na halaga, which is sa mga market, and minsan ay nagho-hoard para magmukhang may kakulangan sa supply. So dahil dito, lalo pang nahihirapan o lalong naghihirap ang mga magsasaka sa ating bansa. So, to combat this kind of problems faced by the farmers, we have these 4 strategies for cooperative empowerment. So, number 1 is capital build-up. So, ano nga ba yung tinatawag na capital build-up? So, the capital build-up is basically focused on the poorest sectors of the cooperative movement, whose surpluses were siphoned off by the moneylenders and big traders who controlled the rural economy. So, this strategy is nakatuon ito sa mga mahihirap na sektor ng cooperative, especially yung mga magsasaka nga. So, sila yung mga mahihirap na minimin dito. So, madalas ang maliit na kita ng mga farmers is napupunta lamang sa moneylenders at traders dahil nga sa kanilang pangungutang sa paglo-loans, and yun na nga, dahil sa mga utang nila or sa mga interest na ipinapatong sa kanila. So, layunin dito sa strategy na ito, or in this strategy, is to build up the capital and also to minimize or mabawasan yung mga tinatawag na leakages ng surplus na pamamagitan ng pag-iipon ng sariling pondo ng cooperative. So with that, pag-iipunin sila ng mga pondo nila, and also pagpapalakas ng savings ng mga members. So yun na nga, dito is papalakasin yung mga savings ng mga members nito. Ipasisave sila, so bawat magkakaroon ng interest sa mga kanilang inaani na, ang interest na yun is hindi para sa hindi bayad or hindi yun utang, kundi ito ay magiging pondo nila or kanilang savings. And also, hindi labis na pag-asa sa external loan. So, dito rin sa capital build-up na ito, or in this strategy also is, iiwasan na yung mga pagpapautang or pag-uutang ng mga magsasaka sa mga external loans na kung saan sila ay pumapataw ng napakalaking interest. So, it also strengthens the idea of the cooperative na kayang bumuo ng sarili nitong kapital. So, this savings or ang pondo na ito ay gagamitin para pangpuhunan naman nila sa taniman at maliit na loan. Kaya, dahil dito, hindi na napupunta yung mga kinikita nila or naaani nila or nakukuha nilang pera sa kanilang inaani, kasi nga pag sila ay nangutang ng kapital doon sa mga loan sharks o mga money lenders, is pagkatapos naman nila maani yung kanilang mga itinanim, ay maliit lang yung kinikita nila kasi nga malaki yung naipapataw sa kanila or malaki yung napataw sa kanilang interest. So ito yung isa sa mga solusyon that this strategy, this capital build up wanted to resolve or wanted to find ways or to combat. So we have the number 2, popular participation. So what is popular participation? So it described as an important ingredient for the sustainability of cooperatives ventures, but it had been lacking in state-initiated cooperatives because there were no proper consultation and no initiative from grassroots. So the sustainability of the cooperative is nakasalalay nga sa aktibong participation ng mga members nito. So kung dati or noon is maraming state-initiated cooperatives na bumagsak dahil walang consultation, walang boses yung mga members dito. Kaya ang NGOs ay nag-focus na ngayon sa education and training, membership seminars, pagpapataas ng political at social awareness. Hindi lang kita ang goal nito, but ang social reform at yung empowerment yung makukuha nila dito. So halimbawa, bago magdesisyon ng isang cooperative, may general assembly munang magaganap kung saan the members will be allowed to be heard. So members are allowed to speak what they wanted to say. Like their thoughts matter. So ano nga ba yung mga opinion nila? Ano ba yung mga maaari nilang ibigay na ideya tungkol nga sa pagpapalago ng kanilang pera sa cooperative na ito. So may magaganap ding training kung saan tatalakayin dito kung ano nga ba yung mga farming techniques at yung mga karapatan ng mga magsasaka. Kaya mas nagiging kumpiyansa ang mga magsasaka at yung kaalaman ng mga miyembro ng kooperatiba. So dahil dito, magiging malakas na or nagiging empowered na yung mga magsasaka natin dahil sa kanilang active participation. Tandaan natin na hindi lalago ang isang cooperatives or hindi uusbong ang isang cooperatives or any organization without the active participation of its members. The number 3 is marketing strategies. So it highlights the popular participation increases the cooperatives' control over production and their market bargaining leverages. So, in this, kapag mataas yung participation, mas control ng cooperative yung production and marketing. So, ang layunin nito or it aimed for avoid the middleman, maiwasan yung mga middleman, to increase the prices of the products. So, mapataas yung presyo ng mga inaani ng mga magsasaka. And also mapunta sa farmers ang dagdag na kita, hindi sa mga cartel. So, kasama rin dito ang direct linkages ng consumers at ng producers, lalo na sa mga urban poor area. So halimbawa, ang cooperative ng mga farmers o yung mga cooperative sa mga farmers, sila na direkta nilang maibebenta yung kanilang mga, for example nga, tinatanim nila is mga bigas. So, direkta nila lang maibebenta yung kanilang mga bigas sa urban poor communities. So, in this, mas puro pa sa consumers, and at the same time, mas mataas ang kinikita or kikitain nila dito. At hindi na mapupunta yung kanilang kita sa mga rice cartels at sa transaction. And the number 4 or the last one is the formation of political alliances. So it involves transforming successful marketing strategies into political support to solve obstacles or problems such as elite control over the market. So kapag naging successful ang economic strategies, kailangan ding isalin ito sa political power. So dito na papasok or dito na pumapasok yung mga pakikipag-ugnayan or pakikipag-alyansa sa mga people's organizations, pagtulak sa agrarian reform or pagsulong sa agrarian reform, at paghingi ng rural development support. So ang cooperative organizing ay nagiging paraan ng pag-angkin ng kapangyarihan ng mga mahihirap. So, example, ang cooperatives o yung mga cooperatives na ito ay nakikipag-ugnayan na sila sa mga NGOs at farmers organizations or farmers group para mag-lobby or maghingi ng support sa gobyerno para sa farm to market roads at land reforms. So dahil sama-sama sila, mas pinapakinggan na sila ng estado kasi nakikita ng ating bansa o ng gobyerno na malaki pala talaga yung impact ng mga kooperatiba na ito sa pagpapalago o pagpapalawak sa kabuhayan ng mga magsasaka. At dahil dyan, dahil dito, nakita natin na naging way or the cooperative served as a vehicle for empowerment in the agricultural communities. In essence, cooperative empowerment is achieved not only through political support but through strong economic strategies, capital build-up, popular participation, effective marketing, and political alliances that allows farmers to break free from exploitation and gain real control over their livelihoods. Through these political and economic strategies, cooperative evolved beyond simple economic organizations and began to shape collective actions and social participation. So this development leads to broader discussion of the cooperative as a vehicle for popular empowerment, where economic cooperation becomes a foundation for democratic engagement and social transformation. So now, we will be talking about the cooperative as a vehicle for popular empowerment. So, what is or how does cooperative became a vehicle for a popular empowerment? So, 15 years after 1986 People Power Revolution, so estimated the year 2000, it's showed by the statistics that the cooperative was still viewed as a vehicle for empowerment for the farmers. So, the strategy chosen was collaboration with the state and this endeavor, which was facilitated by the special relationships of the People's Livelihood Foundation, Tarlac Integrated Livelihood Cooperative Incorporated, or PLF-TILCO, head by Boscaino with the President Aquino. So after nga ng 1986 People Power Revolution, ang cooperative pa rin is nakikita pa rin siya as a way or as a vehicle for empowerment. So kaya naging popular vehicle or popular vehicle for empowerment kasi nga in this way parang yung mga NGOs na nagpo-provide ng mga cooperative or pro-provide ng mga support sa mga farmers, which is yung mga cooperatives, is since nga yung nasabi natin kanina in our earlier discussion na yun na nga nag-seek sila ng help sa government. So in this, parang naging strategy ng cooperative is makipag-collaborate yung makipag-collaborate yung cooperative sa ating gobyerno para matustusan or mabigyan ng mas malaking pondo or mas malaking tulong ang maihatid nila sa mga magsasaka. Hindi lang sa mga magsasaka, kundi sa iba't iba pang cooperative na naglalayong mapalakas, ma-empower, and at the same time, mapalisid yung sufferings or yung struggles ng mga Pilipinong naninirahan sa rural or urban poor areas. Through this partnership, the PLF Philco was able to access production loans from the Land Bank of the Philippines and other government agencies, allowing the farmers to borrow a low interest rate of 2% compared to the 5% or higher interest rates charged by the loan sharks. So, makikita nga natin na through this collaboration, na allowed or nagkaroon ng access yung cooperatives or yung PLF Philco that time ng loan sa Land Bank of the Philippines, kung saan maaari silang mag-seek or mag-loan dito na kung saan maliit lang yung ipapatong sa kanilang interest, which is 2% lang, compare naman sa pangungutang nila sa mga loan sharks na kung saan china-charge nila sila dito ng 5%. So malaki talaga yung agwat nila kung saan 2% lamang yung kanilang ibabayad na interest sa Land Bank. Malaki talaga, makikita talaga natin na mas maganda yung naging takbo ng collaboration na ito or naging maganda yung result ng pagkakaroon ng collaboration na ito between the late President or the former President and the PLF Philco that time. So halimbawa, farmers could purchase fertilizers and pesticides at a much lower cost, reducing their dependence on exploitative leaders. So, halimbawa nga, yung mga farmers, maaari silang bumili or to purchase a fertilizers and pesticides in a lower price, which reduce their dependence on exploitative lenders. So yun na nga, sabi ko kanina, since nga nagkaroon sila ng collaboration sa within the state, so madami ng mga enterprises or madami ng mga businesses na nagbebenta, for example, ng mga pesticides or mga fertilizer. So parang tulong na rin yung ginawa nila. So nabibenta sa kanila ito sa mas maliit na presyo, and at the same time mas lalaki yung mga kikitain nila sa kanilang mga itinatanim. And dahil dito, nawala or nabawasan yung pagiging dependent nila o pagiging dependence nila sa mga exploitative lenders, yung mga tinatawag nating loan sharks na nagpapautang kung saan malaki naman yung kinukuha sa kanilang interest. Nevertheless, the government agencies also provided training to the NGO staff or non-government organization staffs on the daily operations of the cooperatives, while infrastructure support such as farm-to-market roads and post-harvest facilities helped increase the market value of farmers' rice crops. So, yun na nga, through this collaboration, yung naging napansin na sila ng gobyerno, nagkaroon na ng collaboration between the state and the cooperatives or between the NGOs, nag-provide yung gobyerno natin ng mga training para sa mga members or mga staffs or mga organization na ito or yung sa NGO about sa daily operation ng cooperative. And also, infrastructure support. Nagbigay din sila ng infrastructure support such as the farm-to-market roads and post-harvest facilities na kung saan malaking tulong ito sa paglago or pagtaas ng market value ng mga pananim ng mga farmers. So at its peak, PLF Philco had 10,000 farmer members across 83 barangays, covering more than 20,000 hectares of farmland and employed 151 workers. So dahil nga maganda yung naging collaboration or maganda yung build-up ng cooperative strategy na ito ng PLF Philco with the collaboration within the government, so malaki yung mga naging miyembro nito kasi nga malaki na nga yung kinikita mo, maliit pa yung mga gagastusin mo sa itatanim mo. So, because of this, the Cooperative Foundation of the Philippines, or CFPI, played a crucial role in strengthening cooperatives such as the Tarkan Mulawin Multipurpose Cooperative Incorporated, or MPCI, the Kaunlaran MPCI, and the Bakabakahan MPCI in Bulacan. So, the CFPI, or the Cooperative Foundation of the Philippines Incorporated, approaches was to encourage cooperatives to, number one, generating their own capital before borrowing. So, CFPI emphasized the importance of capital build-up within the cooperative before seeking external loans. So, through cooperatives, dues and saving mobilization drives, members were encouraged to contribute regularly to their cooperative. Why? Because this approach was able to strengthen members' sense of ownership and responsibility, while also reducing dependence on usurers and commercial lenders. By generating their own capital, cooperatives become more financially stable and better prepared to support members in production needs. Number two is the use of members' share capital for agricultural inputs. So in this, the cooperative funds which came from the members, or came from the capital of the members, were used to purchase agricultural inputs such as fertilizers and pesticides and many more agricultural needs or agricultural tools that they needed for them to sa kanilang pagsasaka. So these inputs were then provided to members at a low price, or at a low interest rather, of a 2% only, making them more affordable than those offered by private traders. To further reduce costs, cooperatives attempted to lower expenses by shifting to organic fertilizers and minimizing pesticide use. So this strategy helped increase farmers' net income by lowering production costs. So number three is linkage with alternative trading marketing. So association, or ATMA, CFPI linked cooperatives with an alternative trading marketing association, or yung tinatawag natin kaninang ATMA, to protect farmers from exploitative middle traders. So through this linkage, cooperatives gained access to fairer markets and better prices for their produce. So in this strategy, it also addressed the inefficiency of the government agency in supporting rice producing cooperatives, allowing farmers to transact directly into market without losing profits to unscrupulous traders. So the number four is filling gaps left by the government agencies. So CFPI filled the gaps that the government agencies were supposed to address. In terms of cooperative management, CFPI trained farmers in self-management by developing their skills in accounting, bookkeeping, and enabling them also to run their cooperative efficiently and effectively. And also, number two is they also provided a technical assistance in planting and harvesting, helping improve productivity and farm management. So through these initiatives, CFPI strengthened both the economic and organizational capacity of cooperatives. So, yung CFPI din is sila rin na nga yung pumuno sa mga dapat nga ipoprovide ng government agencies. Like so in terms of cooperative management, yung CFPI, nag-conduct sila ng trainings para sa mga farmers on how can they manage their accounts or their kita. So tinuruan sila para i-account or i-bookkeep yung mga kanilang mga itinatanim or yung kanilang mga kinikita, which enables them to run the cooperative efficiently and effectively. Although cooperative serve as a popular vehicle for empowerment, hindi pa rin naiwasan na magkaroon sila ng mga problem as what the other cooperative have faced noon nga is meron pa rin silang kinaharap na mga problema. So, base nga sa experience ng PLF Telco at the Cooperative Foundation of the Philippines or yung CFPI, several challenges that limits their effectiveness and sustainability ng cooperatives as a instrument for empowerment. So ano nga ba yung mga challenges na ito na kanilang kinaharap? So una na doon, or number one, is the relationship of the state to the cooperative. So one major challenge was the inefficient relationship between the state and the cooperatives. Farmers complained about delays in government services, particularly in the release of crop insurance from the Philippine Crop Insurance Corporation or PCIC. So the PCIC was supposed to insure crops against damage caused by rats, fungal disease, typhoons, floods, and other natural disasters. However, delays in insurance processing also delayed the release of loans from the Land Bank of the Philippines. So as a result, the farmers who urgently needed capital were forced to borrow from usurers, undermining the cooperative's goal of freeing the farmers from exploitative lending. So the number three and the last one, challenges, is adverse structural forces. So ano nga ba yung adverse structural forces? So, it was rooted in cultural attitudes further challenged cooperative sustainability. Many farmers continued to prioritize repayment to usurers, middle traders, and the rice cartel over their own cooperatives. So some farmers believe that the loans received through PLF Telco were government funds and therefore they did not need to repay. And since they view it as a government support rather than as a loan, these attitudes weakened the collective responsibility and it hindered the capital build-up within the cooperatives and making it as a long-term empowerment difficult to achieve. And to conclude this report, we can identify and we can understand that the cooperatives could be a means to uplift the lives of the farmers, not only economically but also politically. As a vehicle for development, both the government and the NGOs, POs or People's Organization have used the cooperative as a means to create a source of livelihood for the farmers and a source by which to channel resources into the countryside with the major objective of alleviating poverty. So because of the very nature of the cooperative is based on the participation of its member, not only in the decision-making process, but also in the implementation of its livelihood projects, the organization is also viewed as an important source of popular empowerment. The member in particular can exercise control over production and increase their market bargaining leverage. So we can tell talaga that the cooperative have been used by the NGOs, POs, and the government as a means to uplift impoverished community and the poverty sectors in our country, kung saan it became as a vehicle or as a bridge for empowering them. So through this, the very nature of cooperative is it can be achieved through the participation of its members, not only in the decision process, but also the implementation of livelihood projects. And makikita talaga natin that the cooperative is still viewed as important source of popular empowerment. Kasi nga, hindi naman lahat ng sektor sa ating bansa is nakikita talaga ng ating government 24/7. So, yung mga cooperatives na ito, they acted as a means to finance, to uplift the lives of the farmers, the urban poor communities, the rural communities, and the impoverished sectors in our country. So the members can exercise through cooperative. Through cooperative, the members can exercise control over production and increase their bargain leverage. So at the local level, successful cooperatives weaken the control of usurers, middle traders, and rice cartels by providing farmers with fair credit, marketing, and production support. So this economic empowerment strengthens farmers' ability to challenge political and economic structures that threaten their livelihoods and contribute to the democratization process. So makikita talaga natin na that the cooperative became as a process for democratization. In what aspects? So dahil nga na-empower yung mga cooperatives, na-weaken yung mga pang-exploit ng mga middle traders. For example nga, yung sinabi natin, paulit-ulit natin sinasabi na pagpapautang, na kung saan sinacharge sila ng malaking interest, which is not good kasi parang niloloko nila yung mga farmers. So dahil doon, nawala ito, or maaring hindi man nawala pero na-reduce sila. And this showed how cooperative became as a tool for empowerment and democratization process and the livelihoods of every farmers or every individuals that are farming or using farming as the mean to live their lives, or ito yung pagpa-farming talaga, or yung pagpa-farm yung kanilang panghanap buhay. Sa madaling salita, yung pagsasaka yung kanilang hanap buhay. Despite ongoing obstacles such as patronage politics, weak leadership structures, continued exploitation, and limited government support, the growing number of cooperatives suggests that the Filipino farmers continue to see cooperatives as a practical instrument for achieving dignity, empowerment, and collective survival. So, my take on this, or my reflection about this report, is that the cooperative is important to the people because it allows us to work together to improve our economic and social conditions. So by pooling resources, sharing responsibilities, and making decisions collectively, cooperatives help members gain access to capital, markets, and services that they cannot achieve on their own. So more than an economic organization, the cooperative empowers ordinary people by giving them a voice, strengthening solidarity, and promoting dignity, participation, and sustainable within their own communities. So cooperative talaga serve as a way to improve the quality of life of every individual who suffered from poverty. And as someone who came from, as I said earlier, as someone who came from a rural area, yung cooperative talaga really helped us. You know, when I was just 7 years old, I can still remember that my mother is part of a cooperative. It's not about farming, but it's more on fund na nagbigay talaga sila ng capital sa amin, na kung saan na-use namin to, or we utilize this capital to start a business. So yun talaga. So ang cooperative is hindi lang nag-serve as a organization, but it serve as the empowerment for us. It empowers us, it empowers the people, the individuals living in the rural areas, and especially it empowers the farmers, the ordinary peoples, by giving them a voice, strengthening solidarity, and promoting dignity that they haven't, or they cannot achieve on their own. So sa madaling salita, nagkaroon sila ng parang mean or way para ma-voice yung mga kanilang saloobin, napakinggan yung mga kanilang mga dinadama, at nabigyan sila ng voice ng ating government. So because of the cooperative, ito yung naging daan upang makinig o marinig ng ating gobyerno yung mga problemang kinakaharap nila. So, although not all the things are perfect, hindi man perfecto yung cooperative, but still, sa atin, sa Pilipinas, is naniniwala pa rin yung mga tao, and even me, I can totally say that the cooperative really helped the impoverished sectors, especially the rural areas. And with that, I conclude this report with a belief that the cooperative is something that it is very vital for us people who came from a very poor areas. It may not be perfect, but I can totally say that the cooperative allows the people to work together in improving the economic and social conditions. So that is all. Thank you for listening. By the way, I am Umar Aljad Emerald, Bachelor of Arts in Political Science student from Section DD. Thank you. Daghang salamat and assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.